We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 93.
What a weekend of
Vikings
football!
Uncensored. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the NFL playoffs, and we are still playing, and that team from Wisconsin's not.
Hats off to Detroit.
Nothing to play for other than the basically the joy of knocking Green Bay out of the playoffs. And as it was shown in the fourth quarter of that game, Dan Campbell basically flipped the bird to Green Bay and says, you guys ain't making it. If we're not making the playoffs, you're not making the playoffs.
Him and his big red nose.
Yep.
His whiskey nose.
Joyous occasion for everybody other than the Green Bay fans.
I loved it. Green Bay did not deserve to be in the playoffs.
No.
They did not deserve to be in the playoffs. Detroit deserved to be in the playoffs more than Green Bay did, in my opinion.
No, I would agree with that. But anyway, enough about the Packers. We'll talk about that kind of stuff more
important shit
when we hit the offseason. We got a lot of stuff to talk about here tonight, so we'll dive right into it. Of course, with the season being over, we've got all kinds of hiring or firings going on, things like that. But first and foremost, some great news coming out of Buffalo. Safety Damar Hamlin was released from the intensive care unit at Cincinnati on Monday, was able to fly back to Buffalo, was only there for 2 days. Now, Wednesday morning, they discharged him and allowed him to go home. And he will continue his rehab at home and at the Bills practice facility. So remarkable recovery for a guy who was a little less than 10 days ago, questionable whether or not he would still be with us right now. So
what a tumultuous 10 days for this kid.
Yep. But sounds like he's recovering very well. They said when Nyheim Hines returned that opening kickoff for a touchdown, they said you could hear him across the entire hospital in Cincinnati. He was hooping, hollering, and screaming and stuff in there. So great to see, great to hear. I mean, happy for the guy that he's making a recovery, and we just, continue to pray that he does recover 100% from this and go on from there. But so as we mentioned, Black Monday, which always falls on the day after the season ends, technically did not even wait until Black Monday. Some of it happened on Sunday evening. First domino to fall, the Texans fired head coach Lovie Smith after 1 year. Of course, Houston made a last-second comeback in their game, won the game, which ended up costing
Lovie Smith his job.
Well, ended up costing Houston the number one pick, because with their win and the Bears' loss against us, the Bears, of course, took over the number one seed. Now, I know I've heard people say that, the fact that Houston won and it lost the number one pick cost Lovie Smith his job. I'm going to go the other direction. I'm pretty sure that he was told before that game that he was not going to be there. So when they saw that Chicago had lost, because our game was over first, it was kind of a flip the bird to Houston on the way out and say, you're going to fire my ass. You ain't getting the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
So, we all
Either
know,
way, I mean,
we all know Houston is a well-run organization, and the coaching candidates are going to be banging down the doors to get that job.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know what though? Everybody knows Houston needs a quarterback. Chicago does not need a quarterback. So whether who has 1 and who has 2 is really irrelevant, in my opinion.
well, I don't agree with that, because everybody knows Chicago is probably not going to take a quarterback, so they're going to get a king's ransom for number 1 for somebody to jump over Houston and get the choice of quarterbacks.
That's a good point.
Now,
But
granted,
Houston could have used the number 1 pick more than Chicago for sure.
yeah, but Chicago will use it to get like I said, get a load of picks and help rebuild that roster, whereas Houston would have taken a quarterback with it. So they won't get their pick of the quarterbacks, but it's a deep class, and they're still going to get CJ Stroud or Will Levis or somebody. But anyway, the Texans have already requested interviews with Detroit offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, San Francisco defensive coordinator D'Amico Ryans, Philadelphia defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon, and Denver defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero. I'm sure I butchered his name, but he sounds like he's kind of a hot candidate for a lot of different positions, and somebody who I think the Vikings should keep an eye out for as a possible defensive coordinator here
Ejiro.
after, once the season ends. But we're not worried about coaches right now. We still have games to play. So
That's right.
then the other head coach let go this week. Here again, not a big surprise, but the Arizona Cardinals fired head coach Cliff Kingsbury.
That is not surprising at all.
No. So they're going to have to find somebody who's a big fan of Call of Duty to play with Kyler, so they can.
Apparently, he's going to have some input in who the new coach is going to be as well. That's what they're saying.
Which, again, Kyler Murray to me has not done enough in this league to warrant that kind of clout and that kind of pull. But there again, the Bidwells and running Arizona down there are not the best run organization in the league by any stretch of the imagination. So we will see there. Then some coordinators that have been let go. Washington Commanders fired offensive coordinator Scott Turner. Cleveland fired their defensive coordinator Joe Woods. The Tennessee Titans fired pretty much their entire offensive coaching staff.
Wow.
And the big one in Los Angeles, of course, the second annual Sean McVay will he or won't he return saga is going on, but word is that McVay has told all of his assistant coaches to feel free to explore other coaching opportunities, which is leading a lot of people to believe that McVay will walk away. He's got a TV deal pretty much in the pocket to take if he does hang up the coaching thing, which I
don't think it'll be the last time we see him as a coach. Personally,
probably not.
Still young, but
yeah, because he's 36. I mean,
right, he could take 6 years off and come back.
Right now, the thing, the biggest thing I think in Los Angeles that he's dealing with that he probably does not want to deal with is the chickens are coming home to roost on the fact that they have no draft picks. They've got an aging roster and no real way to fix it. So I don't think he wants to be part of that.
It'd be a big rebuild, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this year was an abject disaster. They're I believe are the worst Super Bowl hangover of any team in the Super Bowl era from wins and loss standpoint. So there's another one. I know there's been a few rumors that Raheem Morris maybe would be in line for the Vikings defensive coordinator should that come available again too. Now I know he was interviewing with somebody this week. I forget which team it was, but that would require another kind of a scheme change again, because Morris is more of a Tampa 2 guy. We'd be kind of rolling back to a 4-3 defense again, which maybe is not the worst thing in the world, I guess. But again, we'll get into that kind of stuff once our season's over.
Yep.
Denver Broncos starting to look for their coaches. They have requested permission to interview Dallas defensive coordinator Dan Quinn.
I could see that.
They are also talking very intensely with the New Orleans Saints about a potential deal for Sean Payton, which would reportedly include a first-round pick plus additional compensation, since New Orleans still owes the rights. Now,
right. Broncos won't have a first-round pick for the next 20 years.
Yeah, I just said the Saints would have to be happy waiting until 2030, 2035, whatever, to get that first-round pick. And then I believe they've also had initial discussions with Jim Harbaugh. So word on the street, and there's a lot of people interested in Harbaugh. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him back in the NFL this year. But
I guess word of mouth is, though, he said himself, I expect to be coaching in Michigan next year still.
Of course. Well, he said that last year too, and then he spent 12 hours here walking in expecting that he had the job, and when he found out that he was actually going to have to work for the interview, it didn't go well and whatever else.
Right.
But kind of looking back at the Rams thing now, I am glad we got Kevin O'Connell when we did, because if it was this year and McVay was leaving, I think O'Connell probably would get that job in Los Angeles, and we would have missed out on him.
Possible.
So kind of glad about that part of it, I guess. But then a couple other things. Once again, the Pittsburgh Steelers finished off the regular season at 9-8.
Yep.
So
Squeaks, you're out.
Head coach Mike Tomlin still has never had a losing record as a head coach. And he's been there since what, 05, 06?
Yeah, I came straight from us.
He was a defensive coach here for a year, and then went there, and has been there ever since.
Yep.
Then also the NFL, not the schedule, but the opponents were named this week. As far as the Vikings go, our road teams, of course, we have the 3 NFC North teams.
Mm-hmm.
Then we also go to Atlanta, to Carolina, to Denver, to Las Vegas, which would be a very fun game to go to, I think. To Philly again. So apparently Philly is the new Seattle. We're going to go up there every year now.
No shit.
And then also to Cincinnati.
Okay.
Our home schedule is once again the NFC North. Then the Saints, the Bucks, the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the 49ers. So that home schedule is going to be tough next year.
Yeah, at least it's at home. I mean, that away schedule, the first 4 seem fairly, I mean, the NFL every year is different.
Right.
Teams that wouldn't expect to be good are good, Everybody that watches the NFL knows this, so.
Yeah, but as it sits right now, the 3 hardest road games, I think, next year are Detroit, Philly, and Cincinnati.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and we'll have more once, the actual schedule comes out and stuff like that, which I believe isn't until, April, somewhere in there?
Yeah, shortly after the draft or shortly before.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, we will roll in here. We'll do just a real quick recap of the Chicago Bears game this past weekend. Like we talked about last week, it was a game that Chicago, very poorly hid the fact that they did not want to win it too badly. They not only had their 3rd string quarterback in there, starting with Nathan Peterman, they brought their 4th string quarterback in for a while. And of course, he ended up throwing 2 interceptions. And
that first one that he threw was pretty ugly.
Yeah, the one to Peterson.
Look at punt, basically.
Mets there, David Montgomery.
Boyle under pressure.
Oh, boy.
And this pass is picked off. Patrick Peterson, 34th interception of his career. Stepped out of bounds. And that ties his teammate, who's not playing today, Harrison Smith. They have the most interceptions among active players in the NFL.
Yeah, there wasn't a receiver within 10, 15 yards. And like you said, he put a lot of air underneath that thing.
I think he was expecting his receiver to go long, and he kind of peeled off of that route.
But that ball wouldn't have worked to go long. I mean, if it was, he would have dropped it in the bucket nicely. But
yeah,
like you said, it looked like a punt. And Patrick Peterson was right back there to receive it and bring it back. That gave Pat P 5 interceptions on the year, which ties him for the team lead with Harrison Smith. So
which also ties him for the lead for active players with Harrison Smith as well.
Yes. And 5 interceptions by a cornerback, that was unheard of in the Mike Zimmer era, it seemed like. But
yeah.
Otherwise, Patrick Jones had himself another pretty nice day. Had a sack, couple tackles for loss, couple quarterback hits. Duke Shelley once again had his first career interception.
8-8. Going against a good Cleveland team, and they're winning that game.
Boyle on 4th down, and Duke Shelley,
We called it.
comes up with the interception. Pass intended for Claypool.
And afterwards promptly planted it at the 50-yard line right on the Bears logo, which pissed off some Bears fans, but it was kind of a statement to the team that sent him packing.
I would feel differently if there wasn't some sort of connection there.
Mm-hmm.
That's just his way of saying, "Hey, man, I'm here now. I'm doing good. Fuck you for letting me go."
Right. You made a mistake here.
Right. I don't think it was a disrespectful thing. It was just him saying, "Hey, man, you guys made a mistake."
Mm-hmm. But with the performance by Shelley this weekend, he finished the season as the 3rd highest rated cornerback in the league from Pro Football Focus, behind only Sauce Gardner and Patrick Surtain.
Yeah.
He did not allow a touchdown all year, recorded 10 pass breakups, which is the 4th most in the league, despite only starting 5 games.
Yep. I think extend the guy.
The quarterback rating, I think, thrown against him was like 55 or something like that. I mean, it was.
Yep.
That he's easily.
He played himself into a starting spot on the roster.
He did. He absolutely did. Other than that, on the offensive side of things, of course, KJ Osborne had another big day, his second career 100-yard game.
Guess what? He was targeted right away. He started the game to like I had preluded to last week.
Mm-hmm. 5 catches for 117 yards, including a 66-yard catch, which was the longest play of the season for the Vikings.
For Minnesota, 3rd down and 7. As Cousins was about to get hit, fires wide open. KJ Osborne. Osborne inside the 10.
Jalen Naylor had another nice game, 4 for 62. Other than that,
he was catching the ball in some tight windows as well.
He was. Naylor has kind of shown himself up the last couple of weeks. I think we might have something there.
Yeah, I do too. I agree.
Other than that, of course, the starters played most of the first half. Second half, Nick Mullins came out.
Second stringers, but you know what? Chicago kept their starters in, other than outside of their quarterback.
The ones that they were playing. But Mullins, I thought, had a pretty decent game. He did have that 1 interception, but watching what he did out there, I felt a lot better about that.
He moved the ball down the field, unlike some of the former backups that we had on the roster last year.
But through all that, we only punted once during the game. That was at the end there.
Yeah, but that was kind of at the end, it was like a kind of a head scratcher type of play because he had Ryan Wright lining up behind center, like at quarterback, and then he backing up. And I don't think O'Connell knew what he wanted to do there. But
well, I think that at that point in time, they were just throwing shit out on tape for people in the playoffs to have to worry about more than anything.
Nonetheless, probably, yeah.
Yeah. Greg Joseph went 3 for 3 on field goals, but he did miss an extra point again. Should have been 4 for 4, except for that clusterfuck at the end of the first half.
3. They get the snap away.
Wow.
And the kick is good.
Signal is good.
There were 12 players on the field by the kicking team. By rule, that penalty is accepted, and there is no score. The half is over.
Yeah.
When we ended up kicking the field goal,
You never
but ended up
want to
having,
see your special teams having to do that. It's one of those plays that you just
yeah,
you don't want to have to run during.
12 men on the field. Everybody was in the locker room.
Get out there! Get out there! Kick the field goal really quick.
The officials come back out, and nope, field goal's no good. They had 12 men on the field. No, whatever.
Yeah,
Didn't come back to bite us, but
nobody was ready for that play. Including the fans, including the refs, including the teams.
mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyway,
A
about
boom,
all I
boom,
got.
boom field goal play.
Yep. About all I got for the Bears game. Anything else you want to hit on it, or?
I would have liked to have seen us hold them to a little bit less as far as scoring goes, but I can't really complain. We went out and we won a game by more than one score.
Mm-hmm.
We had the game in our pocket pretty much for the entire game. So, but I would have liked to have, I would have been happier getting like a shutout, man. That would have been great.
Yeah.
But, beggars can't be choosers. We still played like we expectedly should have played, I would think.
Right. And we walked out of there with a win and finished the season at 13-4.
The offense looked good and like they were moving. I believe, well, I'll hold this for later on, but yeah, we looked like we should have looked going in to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. All right. Since it was a really glorified preseason game, we're not going to do the award segment this week because they're really a mixture of depth throughout the entire game, and like you said, it was a glorified preseason game. So, So with that, we'll roll into another one of our classic beer commercials. So head on over to the fridge, grab yourself a cold one, crack it open, check this out, and we'll be back in a minute.
To survive the perils of history and time, a brewery needs to hold true to the values it was founded on. Yingling, America's oldest brewery, began brewing lager close to 2 centuries ago. We're still here today because we made a damn good beer that tastes the way beer's supposed to. Yingling Traditional Lager. Respect. It's earned.
All right, we are back. And now we move on to the NFL playoff wild card round. Super wild card weekend. We have 2 games on Saturday, 3 of them on Sunday, and then 1 on Monday night. So we'll roll through those here real quick. Starting off with the Saturday matchup, 3:30 Central Time, we have the Seattle Seahawks traveling to Santa Clara to take on the San Francisco 49ers. What do you think on that one?
Well, I believe Seattle can beat San Francisco. And the last couple of weeks, how long can Brock Purdy keep this shit together? Especially under the brightest of lights in a win or go home situation. How long can this guy keep winning games for San Francisco, being Mr. Irrelevant and all?
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason he was drafted in the 7th round, the last draft pick of the draft. I'm not knocking Purdy here at all, but somebody's going to bring this kid down to earth. I believe Seattle could do it. If anybody that could do it, it'd be Pete Carroll and game planning against San Francisco. These guys are divisional teams. So it's going to be a close game. I don't see San Francisco blowing out Seattle. I think Seattle has an honest shot at winning this one. And also we should be knowing who we're going to face by the end of this game if we beat the Giants.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you on this one. I've got this picked as my upset special for wild card weekend. San Francisco's won 10 straight. Everybody's riding their jocks. Now, I mean, I've said it all year long. Their defense scares me. It's a very good defense, but
Stidham just put up 40 points on this defense.
yeah, but as you said, it's also very hard for it's a division rival, so a team to beat another team 3 times in one season. I think Seattle's got a legit shot at this, and it would not surprise me one bit to see Seattle shock the world and knock San Francisco out of the playoffs.
You know what? Pete Carroll is a damn good coach, and as much as I don't like to face the guy, that's a good way of putting it, because I respect the shit out of him. He started out coaching here in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So the dude could coach, and it just comes down to who plays better quarterback on Saturday, Geno Smith or Brock Purdy.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move on to the next one, the Saturday night game, where the Los Angeles Chargers travel to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars, 7:15 p.m. Central Time. I think this has the potential to be maybe the best game of the weekend.
Yep.
You know, the Chargers have a ton of offensive firepower if they can use it correctly, and their defense isn't bad either. They're kind of like us in a way but they're very good, but they're inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
And Jacksonville has impressed me the last few weeks. Trevor Lawrence has started to play up to.
He's becoming Trevor Lawrence that we expected to see coming out of college.
You know, the expectations that he had coming out, he's starting to get to that or to play up to that level. He's not there yet, but he's getting a lot better.
He's starting to elevate his team, and it's proving it, because they made the playoffs this year.
Right.
He's starting to become the leader of that team that is taking this Jaguar team to another level.
Yep. But with that, I'm going to give the edge to the home team here. I think Jacksonville takes this one and moves on.
I agree. I'm with you there.
Okay.
I think Trevor Lawrence gets the best of Herbert this weekend.
All right. So then moving on to Sunday, the early game, Miami Dolphins with likely Skylar Thompson starting at quarterback, traveling to Buffalo to face the Bills. Like we talked about, the last game has the opportunity to be one of the better games of the week. I think this one has the opportunity to be the biggest blowout of the week.
I agree. I think Miami has lost a lot of steam down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Tua's been banged up. I mean, he's had a rough season this year.
And he's already ruled out for this week.
Oh, so. They did. He is ruled out then. Yeah. I look and I would stamp it in the books that Buffalo is going to come out and they're going to win this game. And it could get ugly for Miami pretty quick.
Yep. Now I've heard rumors that there's a potential that DeMar Hamlin might be at this game. And if he walks out onto that field before the game, I saw somebody on Twitter today post, the stadium could very well crumble to the ground from the outpouring that's going to happen if he walks out onto that field. So if he's there, the only thing I can see is Buffalo maybe getting a little over emotional because of it, but I really don't see a way that Miami is even going to keep this game close, to be honest with you.
And it doesn't help that you have a rookie head coach either calling this game. You know, Mike McDaniel, if he's going to prove something, he'll do it this weekend. But McDermott, I think, has got this Buffalo team ready to go. Yeah. And like I said, Miami started out hot, and they've kind of fizzled out, down the stretch.
Mm-hmm. All right, so then we'll wait on the 3:30 game because that's ours. So we'll talk about that after the rest of them here. Sunday night game, Baltimore for the second week in a row plays Cincinnati.
This is kind of like the same thing with Miami again here.
Yeah.
Baltimore, speaking of Baltimore in that sense.
Yeah. Now it's sounding like Lamar Jackson isn't progressing like they should, so it's probably going to be Tyler Huntley starting this week. I've said this many times. I love me some Joe Burrow. That the offense they've got there with Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
And they know what it takes.
Yeah, and they've got a two-headed, the running back, Samaje Perine over there has come on a lot to help that running game. They've always had Joe Mixon, but now they've got a second guy that's
right
helping out
very
quite
good.
Yeah, and their defense has been playing pretty well too. Cincinnati takes this and they move on as well.
It's the opposite with Cincy. They kind of started out the year slow and then picked it up towards the end.
Yeah, but Cincy's playing with a little chip on their shoulder too, because they lost out on the opportunity to get the number one because of that whole situation with the game that against Buffalo a couple weeks ago. So I think they're going to be playing with a little bit of an edge to them.
Oh yeah.
So I got Cincy in this one too.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all the same here so far.
Yeah. All right, Monday night game. The Dallas Cowboys travel to Tampa Bay to take on Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucks. What do you think?
This is interesting. This is an interesting game to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see Tampa Bay win this one, just because that's how much I despise Dallas. And Dak has really been. He's not had a good year.
Especially lately.
Yep. And this is in Tampa, by the way. So there's that as well. And I mean, I'm gonna have to go with Tom Brady here and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As bad as they were during the regular season, if there's gonna be any team that's gonna make a run for it with the record that they did, it's gonna be Tom Brady and any team he's quarterbacking in the playoffs.
Yeah. And I mean, I've made the mistake before of counting out Tom Brady. I have learned my lesson to never count that man out. And they're starting to get healthy at the right time. They've got a bunch of their defensive guys are coming back. Right. Mike Evans is having a resurgence the last couple of weeks in the offensive side of things.
He's had a 3-touchdown game not too long ago.
Yeah, I was like, I think it was 2 weeks ago. I think he had 3 touchdowns. So, and with Dallas playing as poorly as they have late, now granted they did beat Philly a couple weeks ago, but that was with Gardner
They're hot and
Minshew.
cold, man. They're
are
the epitome of running hot and cold.
Yep. But I think Tampa Bay wins this one. Dallas in the playoffs until they prove to me that they can, that they can do something other than what they've done since the 90s.
I think they've only won one playoff game since the fucking dynasty years.
Mm-hmm. So I got Tampa in this one.
I do too.
All right. So then we've got one more game remaining Sunday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Our Minnesota Vikings host the New York Giants for the second time in the last month. Few different things kind of rolling up to this. As of Wednesday, tackle Blake Brandel has been designated to return, so it's very possible he could be active this weekend. On the official injury report that started out on Wednesday, and Vikings had 5 guys on the injury report on Wednesday. Cam Dantzler did not practice with an ankle, and plus he had some sort of a personal matter. Now, Brian Asamoah, who was inactive last week due to a knee injury, he was limited on Wednesday. Promising sign here for the first time in several weeks. Center Garrett Bradbury was a limited participant in practice, so he is back practicing.
I think it's going to be a game time decision, honestly.
Which I think the fact that he's at least limited now is a good sign for possibly having him on Sunday. Now, we've talked about this many times. I can't believe we're actually clamoring for Garrett Bradbury to get back in the game, but
this is every Vikings fan, honestly.
No,
That wasn't a Brett Bear fan coming out of college. This is every Vikings fan saying right now. I can't believe I'm saying this.
Right. Then defensive tackle James Lynch, who has missed the last couple of weeks with a shoulder injury, was actually a full participant today. So
Good.
he will most likely be on track to play this weekend. And then Harrison Smith, who was held out last week from the Chicago game, was limited also with a knee injury. So, but I would guess that if there's any chance of any of those guys playing, they're all going to try to make it work. Might end up on a pitch count on some of them, but it's all hands on deck here, because if we don't win
the
this
depth
weekend,
is there, just rotational.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You get, if Harry can play for a little bit,
newly
Metellus
crowned
can roll
captain.
in, and if we can get Asamoah in there, of course, the Giants game a few weeks ago, that was the game where Asamoah had that
broken coverage in the strip.
Yep, stripped the ball and recovered it.
But his coverage has gotten much better though.
Yeah. So
that comes with reps.
It does. Beyond that, what do you want to see this weekend, other than a victory, of course?
I think we're gonna see some new wrinkles. Maybe a few different looks than what we have seen. I look for our offense to become a little bit more explosive. I don't know. I think a lot of this media and people, you don't want to listen to the outside noise, but it's there. They're all saying this Giants team's going to come in and they're going to give us a run for our money, but I could see us putting up 30 points this game. And will they say that the Giant teams is better than the time that we had seen them and that we just barely squeaked it out? We were playing the Giants at the time when we knew we had already locked up a playoff spot. I don't know how much urgency was there for our team in that game. Not saying, obviously we took care of business, so that says enough. But I believe we're a different team too than they seen 3-4 weeks ago, however many weeks ago it is. And
yeah.
I believe we've continued to get better every single week as the season has gone on offensively, for the most part, and as a team for the most part, I believe.
Yeah. Now, I know, just kind of hearing the buzz like you're talking about, the national media and most people aren't giving the Vikings a chance in this one. But
we're what, 3-point underdogs this week?
No, I think
as of right now,
we're 3-point favorites as of right now, I believe.
Right. Excuse me. Yes, favorites. Yeah.
Which basically that's the home field, so it's basically a pick'em game right now.
And the Giants talking shit about how it wasn't very loud there. They're about to find out.
Yep.
They're about to find out.
And they're talking about, it took the Vikings a 61-yard field goal as time expired to win that game. No, they kind of let the Giants back into it. We had it pretty well in hand until we let Saquon Barkley run for that long touchdown there at the end of the game.
And like I said, we knew that we had already clinched a playoff spot at this point. Too. Not saying that played a big part, but there's a couple key pieces that weren't in there as well during that week.
Right. But then, another thing nobody's talking about, the combination of TJ Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson had what, 20, 25 catches, 24 catches, something like that.
Yep.
In that game against the Giants. Both of them were well over 100 yards.
I believe Irv Smith Jr. is kind of an X factor here as well.
Yeah, that's another one, that if, we start
the
running,
ability to run, a 12 personnel more.
Yeah. And if we're doing that, that's a new wrinkle that they didn't see the last time. I do think we need to get the running game more involved this time. The Giants
more balance.
The Giants are not a good run defense.
Run to the left side, not the fucking right. Yeah. Or up the center's ass.
If you're going to be running Cook, bounce him outside the tackles, get him out in space a little bit more. If you're going to hammer it, and if you're going to hammer it up the middle, use Madison.
Yeah.
Madison doesn't have he doesn't have near
the there in formation.
Madison does not have near the vision that Dalvin Cook does, but if you need someone as a battering ram,
that's going to get you some yards.
Yep. Then use
Leroy Horde-esque.
Yeah. Then use Madison for that kind of stuff. I look for hopefully Justin Jefferson having another big game here.
Maybe explore that screen game a little bit more this weekend as well against that blitz.
Yeah, because that seemed like it worked fairly well against the Giants last time. So,
well-timed screen game call.
although not the tight end screen, because we have not made a tight end screen work at all this year. Wide receiver screens, running back screens have worked. Tight end screens have not. But yeah, beyond that, we know Wink Martindale is going to want to bring the house as much as he possibly can. So it's going to be a tall task for Oli Udoh, and
who has, played admirably in the absence of O'Neal, in my opinion, at right tackle, which he should have, because that's his natural position.
Yeah, he's a lot better tackle than he ever was a guard. But, we saw it last time. Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, and those guys up front made life rough for Kirk on a lot of times. Now, Kirk still
made the plays that
he did. He still threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Giants the first game. So, that Giants defense, we proved that we can make hay against it the last time. We can do it again.
That's right.
We just need to throw in a few different wrinkles and things like that. Get KJ Osborne more involved.
Earlier on. I mean, he gets involved, but it seems like they wait until they need to get him involved.
Mm-hmm. Rotate Jalen Naylor in a little bit. Now I really don't have a whole lot of desire to see Jalen Reagor in there, because we've seen what he's done when he does, and it seems like he screws up more than he.
Just pin Reagor at your punt returner and let it be, and slip Naylor into where you would normally have Reagor.
Yep. I think Naylor has deserved the right to be wide receiver 4 right now.
He has been making some tight catches and some tight windows.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way he spins it upfield is pretty quick. The motion upfield.
Yep.
Is pretty quick as well. He's got some speed. He's a speedy receiver. Yep. Speed receiver for sure.
Right. Now on the defensive side of things, we have to do a better job on Saquon Barkley this time.
Granted, I thought we did a decent job given the circumstances. He's like the best. He is the best running back in the league when he is 100% healthy.
We talked about this before the game last time. The offense goes through Barkley, whether it's the run game, whether it's the short passing game.
One of the very few teams left in the league where the run, other than Tennessee, runs through Saquon.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Tennessee runs through Derrick Henry. That's what predicts what the offense is going to do. Predicates.
Yep. Now, that being said, we have to make life more uncomfortable for Daniel Jones. We really didn't do that, especially early on before. Got to keep him in the pocket. Can't let him get out and run, because he ran for quite a few yards against us. And
more aggressive play calling on defense as far as blitzing goes. They have to blitz. I like that sweet spot between 40 and 48% blitz percentage on the game. That's a nice little sweet spot right there, in my opinion.
Yep. But for God's sakes, don't be dropping Hunter and Zadarius Smith in coverage.
Never. Do not.
No.
I could see maybe going out to the flats, but as far as going back, no.
No, I mean, yeah, if you got a running back flaring out of the backfield or something, sure. But those two guys are supposed to be rushing the passer.
Exactly. They are premier pass rushers.
Right.
And that Danielle Hunter's coming around.
Yeah.
And it might be at just the right moment.
Hopefully. Zadarius Smith has been quiet for a few weeks. I'd like to see him come alive a little bit more in this game.
They've been, I believe, taking it a little bit easy on Z the last few weeks.
Yeah, I think they have a little bit.
More spelling of him, I believe, towards the end of the year. So I look for that pass rush to have a good day.
All right. Beyond all of that, I guess we can roll and call it prediction time here now. What do you got for that?
I believe the offense comes out and puts on a show against New York. I don't think it's going to be a one-score game. Regardless if it's a one-score game or not, we are going to win. we're going to be, I believe, since we wrapped up a playoff spot, O'Connell's had that in the back of his head, and he is going to have this team ready to play. And if whoever's out there listening, if you're going to the game, don't ever be quiet the entire game unless our offense is on the field. If not, I want to hear that stadium booming the whole game.
Yeah, I think the same way. I think we get it done this week. This is the one home game we are guaranteed in the playoffs. I think we make the most of it. And I don't think it's going to be as close as the last game was. I mean, for the most part, realistically, we had that first game relatively in control up until the very end there. And I mean, it's like a broken record. If we can play a complete game, the Giants don't stand a chance.
I think this is where we start being the team everybody expected us to be. And, they say nothing changes. Well, things can happen where you can get better.
Yeah.
And,
well, now's the time. We got to pull out all the stops because
Jefferson lives for these types of games.
He does.
This is where he makes his money. And this is the moments that he thrives in. Going back to college, you know. So the Giants better be ready. That's all I can say. Because I believe we're going to be.
Yeah. Now I've been hearing a bunch of stuff the last couple of days. It's just stupid talk. I've heard a lot of people saying that, in the choice between quarterbacks, they're going to take Daniel Jones 10 times out of 10 over Kirk Cousins and this, that, and everything else. I'm like, shut up.
They better account for Daniel Jones, though.
They do.
They better fucking account for Daniel Jones, because if he's running all over our ass all day, I'm not going to be very happy with Brunswick.
No, that's the one thing Daniel Jones has over Kirk is the ability to run.
As far as running with the ball.
But still, if you stuck the two of them out there and told me I had to pick one for this game, I'm still taking Kirk.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the arm.
Right.
And the thing that we need to stop is letting Daniel Jones go deep, because he threw more deep balls against us than he had all season against anybody else.
Right.
So, and shut down Isaiah Hodgins.
Yeah. Because, I mean, yeah, we were all talking about Darius Slayton being their number one guy, and Hodgins had a field day.
He had some decent receptions too, Slayton did.
Yeah, but it wasn't very many, but Hodgins had a freaking field day against us.
He had like 2 or 3 series where he just lit us up. But we adjusted second half.
Yeah. So, but yeah, as Kevin O'Connell has said all year long, be at your best when your best is required. Our best is required Sunday at 3:30 p.m. to take care of business, take care of the Giants, and move on to the divisional round.
I want to see some disguised blitzes. Let Harrison Smith do his thing. Let him come up and go back and come up and, confuse the fuck out of Daniel Jones. Make this game tough for Daniel Jones. Make them have to beat us with the run.
One of those out of the blue Patrick Peterson blitzes like we had earlier on there too would be a great
even showing a blitz and then going back. Just be clever with your play calling.
That whole illusion of complexity thing that O'Connell talked about when he took the job, about a year ago. So so I guess we'll see what happens at 3:30 on Sunday, but I look for us to move on. So, and speaking of moving on, with that, we have reached the best segment of our show. As usual, this week, looking at the greatest players to wear numero 93 in this week's edition of Brunswick's Best. So why don't you roll that beautiful bean footage and bring us some 93-ish there, Lance?
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Well, honestly, there's only two Giants on this mountain. So, I mean, I think there was like maybe a handful of guys that wore this number. I think Twyman being the most recent. But really, there's only two big guys, two big Giants for this list. And we're going to discuss them here a little bit in depth. First off, I want to give a shout out to Wikipedia. They came in handy here this week. with my research and the knowledge I was able to gather as well for this. So kicking off the list chronological order, we go with Big Bad John Randall. Now, Randall, he went undrafted. He tried out for his brother's team, the Buccaneers, but was thought to be too small and was not signed to a contract. The 6'1", 244-pound defensive lineman was picked up by the Vikings after the draft on the recommendation of head scout Don Deesh. Randall, I don't know if I made that name. I don't know if I got that last name right. Excuse me. Randall was told by the Vikings that he would only be picked up if he came back with his weight over 250. Now, this is a little story. If you guys have never heard.
This story. I love this story.
Now, he was told he would only be picked up if he came back with his weight over 250, but he was actually at 244 pounds. So when he was weighed, he actually hid a chain under his sweats to get his weight up to snuff. And the rest is history. All right, moving on. No, I'm just kidding.
That's
Randall,
what you said.
yeah.
Regulators, mount up. We're coming.
Night Rider.
Yeah. Anyways, Randall played his first season in 1990. Randall went to his first Pro Bowl in 93 after recording 11 and a half sacks and quickly became one of the dominant defensive tackles of his era. Once Henry Thomas left the Vikings, Randall increased his training regimen. Randall would record double-digit sacks during 9 different seasons, including the career high and league-leading 15 and a half sacks in 1997 at the defensive tackle position. In the 1999 game against the 49ers, he recorded his only career interception. Like fellow Minnesota Viking, the great Chris Hovan, Randall was known for his eccentric face painting as well as trash talking on the field and disarming on-field heckling of opposing players. Among Randall's most famous on-field catchphrases was 6-footers for life, an allusion to scouting criticism of him being undersized for his position. Randall had an ongoing rivalry with Packers quarterback Brett Favre, for whom he sacked more than any other quarterback in his time. Favre said that Randall was the toughest defensive player he faced and that on an artificial turf, he was unblockable. To play off the rivalry with Brett Favre, Randall starred in a commercial which featured him sewing a miniature version of Favre's number 4 jersey on which he put on a chicken. The commercial showed Randall chasing the chicken around in what was supposed to be Randall's backyard, and it ended with Randall cooking chicken on his barbecue.
6 yards of hunter green, 2 yards of gold, stick pins, heavy-duty thread, and some of those iron-on transfers.
Leading to fierce protests from people for the ethical treatment of animals because, nobody eats fucking chicken. Nobody eats chicken.
No.
God forbid they cook chicken on a grill.
Mm-hmm.
Big Bad John's pass rushing techniques were motion captured for the 989 Sports NFL Extreme Series. He was the cover athlete for the second game in the series. He was a 6-time first-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler. His 137 and a half sacks ranks 10th all-time overall and first among defensive tackles. On February 6th, 2010, he was voted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Randall left the NFL tied with Richard Dent for 5th in number of career sacks. His 137 and a half career sacks remains second highest total by a defensive tackle in NFL history, only ranking below fellow Viking legend Alan Page, who had a total of 148 and a half. A few more things to add to his list of accolades before we finish up with Mr. John Randall. He was the NFL sacks leader in 1997. He was part of the NFL 1990s All-Decade Team, NFL 100th Anniversary All-Time Team, Minnesota Vikings Ring of Honor, and he was also one of the 50 greatest Vikings. Mr. John Randall, in all respect, you are the man. You made the list, of course.
My all-time favorite player to wear purple.
He was a disruptive force, man, and he could talk the talk, but he could also walk the walk. So, and that's a guy you want on your team, but you don't want to play against.
Right.
Absolutely. So, who do you think is next?
Oh, gee, I don't know.
This dude was one of my favorites coming out of college, and then the fact that he came to us was even better. Kevin Williams, and what I like to call the Quiet Storm. After an outstanding performance during the Senior Bowl, Williams went from a marginal first-round choice to a possible top 12 pick for the 2003 NFL Draft, in most scouts' estimation. However, he was considered a classic one-year wonder. Some considered Williams a more natural defensive end and suggested a move to the edge in the NFL. The Vikings were actually slotted at the 7th team for the first round in that year's draft. But in the memorable gaffe of Vikings history, when their 15 minutes on the clock had expired, two other teams rushed in and made selections. Jacksonville took the future non-Hall of Famer, lead offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Byron Leftwich, and Carolina selected Jordan Gross before Minnesota finally got to choose who they say was their guy to begin with, Kevin Williams. In 2003, Williams was one of the top impact rookie defenders in team history and led the Vikings with 10.5 sacks, the second most sacks by a Vikings rookie behind Keith Millard's 11 in 1985, a former mention on Brunswick's Best. He was a consensus all-rookie team honoree, having started opening 12 games of the season at left defensive end, which I remember distinctly, him playing defensive end his rookie year, and moving inside to start at nose tackle, where he remained for the final 4 games and basically for the remainder of his career.
Three tech, not nose tackle.
Oh, yeah, 3 tech. Yeah, excuse me. He set the Vikings rookie record with 3 sacks in a season finale at Arizona on December 28th. Williams was named NFC Defensive Rookie of the Month when he had 18 tackles, 5 sacks, a forced fumble, and an interception in a 4-game stretch from defensive tackle, and joined Carl Eller and El Noga, ooh, that's a name, as the only rookie defensive ends in team history to start the season opener when he debuted in the lineup at Green Bay in to start the season opener when he debuted in the lineup at Green Bay September 7th, and also joined defensive end Lance Johnstone as players with 10-plus sacks, the first time in Vikings history since 1993, when Chris Dolman and John Randall accomplished the feat. Williams compiled 11.5 sacks in 2004, 4 in 2005, and 5 in 2006. Williams played under tackle in the Minnesota Vikings 4-3 defense with teammate Pat Williams manning the nose tackle position. They were known collectively as the Williams Wall, as well as the Williams Wrecking Crew. I always referred to them as the Williams Wall.
Yeah, they were the wall. I mean, that's
due to their physical presence at the line of scrimmage, an attribute that helped them lead the Vikings to the best rushing defense in the league for 3 consecutive seasons, and quite honestly, one of the best rushing defenses in the entire history of the NFL, in my opinion. On December 23rd, 2006, the Minnesota Vikings signed him to a new 7-year, contract extension that could reach up to $50 million with incentives. The contract also included $16 million in guaranteed money. In 2007, during the NFL kickoff game, Williams intercepted Atlanta Falcons quarterback Joey Harrington and ran 54 yards for a touchdown in the first quarter. This was the Vikings' first touchdown for the 2007 season. In week 14 of the same season, Williams intercepted San Francisco 49ers quarterback Dilfer and returned the pick for a touchdown in the first quarter. It was the first touchdown of the game and Williams' second interception for a touchdown of the season. On December 2nd, 2008, he received a 4-game suspension for the use of a diuretic, Star Caps, if you all can remember, which can be used for a masking agent for steroid use. It is believed that the diuretic was found in a weight loss supplement that he had been taking. Williams, along with Pat Williams, appealed the suspension to a Minnesota federal court. The judge ruled against the NFL's decision and allowed all suspended players, including Williams, to play until a further review of the case. The case review had been ongoing through the entire 2009 and 2010 NFL seasons, but in 2011, he was suspended for only 2 games under the rules of the new collective bargaining agreement. Williams finished his time in Minnesota after the 2013 season and went on to play 2 more seasons before hanging them up with Seattle and after a year with Seattle and a year in New Orleans. On July 27th, 2016, Williams signed a 1-day contract with the Minnesota Vikings before announcing his retirement from professional football. Now, some of Kevin Williams' accolades before we wrap things up here. He's a 5-time first-team All-Pro, 2004, 2006 to 2009, 6-time Pro Bowler, NFL 2000s All-Decade Team, PFWA All-Rookie Team, Minnesota Vikings Ring of Honor, 50 Greatest Viking, Minnesota Vikings All-Mall of America Field Team. He finished his career with 525 tackles, 63 sacks, 5 interceptions, and 9 forced fumbles. And in my opinion, should be a future Hall of Famer. And that's it. Kevin Williams made the list this week, and that's all for Brunswick's Best.
All right. So with that, that's all we have for this week. Again, want to thank everybody for tuning in. Want to give a shout out to the guys over at Under the Lights and Minnesota Sports Podcast. Thank you for having me on this past Tuesday. Had a great time with you guys. If you have not checked those guys out, go check them out. They have a YouTube page and Twitter and the whole 9 yards. Couple of great dudes. Really enjoyed it. If you guys are out and about, of course, this weekend, make sure you take us along with you as usual. If you have not done so yet, hit that red subscribe button down there below Brunswick and helps us out a ton. Like the show, subscribe. It helps us bring better and more content for you guys coming forward. We've got some big things on the burner for the off season, but we're not done with football yet, ladies and gentlemen. We hope we got at least 4 more games here. So, we will continue, regardless of how far the Vikings go, we will continue on here with our weekly shows. So, again, thank you guys for everything you've done for us the last 2 years, for tuning in. And we couldn't do it without you guys. So with that, why don't you take us home, Lance?
Man, 93. So I really hope we just turn it up to like 11 this weekend. And we just go from being a team that, I don't care how we win, honestly, but a team that goes from winning by a score to a team that just can put teams away when it matters the most. I'm going to say one thing, though, with this team would, out of all the teams that I had the feeling, there was the 98 team, there was the 2009 team and then there was the 2017 where you kind of felt we're going to go into the playoffs and we're going to make some noise. Well, this is an odd year because, yes, we did a lot of great things during the regular season, but the feeling with this team is different. Nobody knows how to feel about this team. So now watch this be the team that goes and gets it done for us.
I hope so.
So with that being said, Let's go take care of business at home against New York. Let's send them packing and move forward to the divisional round. We'll see you next week, guys.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Let's go.